AI is not here to replace people. AI is here for people to be able to do more and different things more efficiently. And your competitive advantage will be to be the first company in your industry to move into AI and really understand and embrace it.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of WIT, which is What I Think. I'm here with Stephane Monsallier. He's CEO of System in Motion. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you for having me.
Why don't we start with a short background about yourself, and then we'll jump into it.
Sure. I started to play with computers when I was 10. I was living back in the countryside somewhere in France. I got a book, first computer, taught myself basically how to program. And since then, I never left, playing with computers. And today I would see myself more as a translator, helping business people to understand technology, translate business into technology, technology into business. And since my master degree in 1993 was in artificial intelligence, I was very excited to see that new wave of generative AI and all the things we can do with it. So for the last year and a half, I've been involved really deeply into helping companies to understand, implement generative AI, train people all around Asia. So that's where I am today. Where I will be in a year or two, I don't know yet, but it's probably still going to be about AI and technology and business and teaching people and empowering people.
It sounds like you started very early. And I remember you telling me that there are 6 pillars to AI. We're going to jump into that soon, but I want to ask you what your definition of artificial intelligence is, and perhaps what it was back then, and has it changed, has it evolved? Anything like that?
So I have a witty definition of artificial intelligence that I coined in 1992, actually, when I started to study. At that time, I was saying, when it doesn't work, it's called artificial intelligence. When it works, we call it computing. Yeah. So it's still sort of relevant today, but the serious definition of artificial intelligence is when we use machines, computers, to achieve a result that would require intelligence. So if you have a human that performs a task and they use their intelligence to go from input to output, the computer can do the same thing. So generate the same output or perform the same task. So it doesn't mean that the computer is intelligent. It means that the computer can produce the same results that a human would produce using their intelligence. And I think that's the right definition as we stand here today.
But when it does what you want, it's intelligent. And when it's not, it's...
So that's the point. It's actually never intelligent. It gives you what you want and you're happy with the results. You're like, oh, it's super smart. But it does the same thing on another task. But because you didn't define it properly, it gives you a stupid answer. But it's still the same machine. It's still the same program and it's still the same piece of software using the same data. So it's not always intelligence, but it can achieve the same result as an intelligent sentient being would produce. And sometimes even better, and most of the time faster. That leads to a lot of confusion, that leads to a lot of hallucination and all the things we're talking about in artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite complicated, but here we are. We're going to have to live with it. And it's a part of our lives now, and it's going to be more and more a part of our lives. I understand that you want to educate everybody about artificial intelligence. Tell me where that passion has come from.
It was born from necessity. So when I first saw generative AI and starting to play with GPT 3.5, my team very quickly realized the potential. We started to use it ourselves and we saw how it changed our life, our professional life, how it changed the company. And then we wanted to share that and we wanted to jump right into integration projects. We wanted to develop software. We wanted to integrate it with platforms. So we started to pitch our existing customers and they didn't get it. They're like, yeah, why are you talking about this? Like, what is it? And I tried it and it's stupid and it doesn't work and blah, blah, blah. So we said they won't understand. If they don't understand, they're not going to purchase services from us. So we have to educate them. Okay, let's go at it. Let's educate people. And in the past, I would say in the last 20, even 30 years, I've always been educating business people for free. It was part of pre-sales. You want a project? Tell me what you're going to do. Explain to me what is the right solution. And this time I said, no. This time we're going to do it differently. We're going to charge for the training. So of course, if we charge for the training, we have to make it better. So we were never a training company, but we realized that most companies, most decision makers will not purchase AI integration services if they don't understand. So if they don't buy the training. And I would say that for the last year and a half, we've mainly been doing training because there's a huge appetite on the market to understand, especially in the last 4 months as we record in March 2025. It was kind of a random serendipitous decision, but it turned out to be a great one. And the more people we train, the more excited I get about it because there's always in those training, there's always the aha moments where wow, that's what it is. Ah, that's how I can use it. So I really crave for that when I'm still running some of our trainings. And this is really the moments that I really crave, and I'm really happy to see this happening. And of course, the feedback after the trainings, which are usually really, really good, and the bad feedback that tells us what we can improve and how we can make it better.
It's interesting. I mean, you're essentially teaching a change in cultural behavior, which is not easy because people are used to, for example, Googling an answer or, any kind of other search. What are you finding? What are the challenges? What are the pitfalls, the reactions other than, obviously discovering how powerful it is?
We usually have two groups of people who come to our training. We have the people who have no clue what it is. For these people, it's very easy. They just wait and they follow and they listen and they're usually quite, I'd say, compliant and they go through step by step. And after 3 hours, some are a bit dizzy, but they really got a lot of value because they go from not really know what it is, following the steps to getting great results. And these are really the easiest people to teach. And you have a second group of people who've been using it. And these people, they started with a few misconceptions. They kind of gather information left and right from YouTube, social media, looking at influencers. Most of them have developed bad habits. They have to unlearn those bad habits, understand why it was not the best. And usually we show them that, okay, you've been having bad results sometimes and you don't know why. Now I'm going to tell you why. Now let's go back a little bit and rebuild those foundations. And then very, very few are impossible to teach, the uncoachable one. They've had bad results. They keep getting bad results, but they don't want to change their practice. And then deep down, I think that the thing that is most difficult for people to admit is that you need to spend a little bit time to write a very good prompt. They want it instantly. As you were saying, you're used to a Google search, like this is my keyword, boom, I get my answer. And they have the same approach with AI. And we explain to them that no, if it's a complex task, and you want something accurate and you don't want hallucination, you have to spend a little bit more time crafting your prompt, but then you get something that is maybe 80% correct immediately. If you just have a quick prompt, yes, you're saving time on the prompt, but you're going to spend 5 or 10 minutes refining. And at the end of the day, you're less efficient. So when you say it's a change of mindset, it's really a change of how do you synchronize your brain with the AI? How do you go at the right speed and sometimes slow down so you can be more efficient at the end? This is by far the most difficult behavioral change that we try to infuse.
Let me ask you about age demographics. What are you seeing, like
So
kind of
no,
range of ages that you've dealt with?
yeah, I think we had people in our training 18 to 76. That's the range that we had in training. And then when we do training inside companies, so we do what we call public training. So people are coming from different companies through professional organization, chambers of commerce. And we also do what we call private training. So it's inside one company, one, two, or three groups of people. And in companies, the smartest decision maker and stakeholder, they always ask us the same question after the training. Who has the potential in a company to be the AI champion? Because they know that not everybody will learn at the same speed, even if we give the same training to everybody. So they really want to identify like who in this organization can be the AI champion that other people can go to help, to coach, to understand, mentor, etc., etc. And no surprise there. The youngest generation are the most agile. They are the one who really get it. And they are the one who are willing to work in a different way because maybe they've been in the job for 1 or 2 years. So they don't have those 20 or 30 years of we've always been doing it this way in this company. So they definitely get it way faster. And in a 3 hour or full day training, they really get, and we see the transformation and we see the change happening almost in real time in there. So invariably, the AI champion that we recommend are not the senior manager. They are the smart, agile, young generation. They get it faster. Yeah, no surprise there.
Is it going to be like, oh, let's ask the IT guy? So like he's like the default AI champion, you know?
So the IT team is no different from the marketing team, from the finance team, from the HR team. You have younger and more senior people in the team, and the younger people from the IT team, they understand how to use AI for their own work. Because when we do the training, it's not a technical training. It's really a training of how to implement it in your daily work. So when we show IT team how to use it, they use it for their own work. It's not for them to learn how to program AI, how to create your own AI model or anything, how you use it in your daily work. So what is true of a marketing team, the younger generation gets it and they can advance. The IT team, the younger generation, they understand how to use it internally. And I remember a few weeks back in the training, only one guy in the IT team, I gave him like that champion chip, like he can be a champion in your organization and not the others.
Interesting. So during the training, you kind of identify who has the strongest tendency competencies and
Yeah.
sort of lean into that?
It's quite easy. See how much they get from the content, how much they apply, how they follow instruction, how they identify the mistakes and correct it and go to a better prompt, how they ask question or they don't ask question or they just go with the flow. And we see it across organization and really across function.
I usually ask this question later on in my talks, but what do you think of people under 18 being educated on AI?
Very interesting question because it so happens that we're testing it next week, I think in Shanghai. We've created a workshop for parents and teenagers to collaborate on how to leverage AI to learn. We call it how to teach, not to cheat. So there are ways to turn AI into a tutor, help you with revision. You can ask AI generate your flashcards on everything. So there is a way to use AI, not to do your homework, but to help you in your learning process and have that one-on-one tutoring, have that one-on-one interaction and really interact with the content. And we think it's especially interesting and important for parents on topics that they are not good at. Let's say a CMO in a large company, maybe their kids is studying chemistry. How are they going to help them on chemistry? But they can use AI to compensate and really work together and review together. The way you would open an encyclopedia in the past, let's learn together. Now you can do the same thing with AI. So we designed a 3-hour workshop that we want to promote across international school in Asia because we think it's extremely important. When some schools have made the decision, I think they're turning around now to absolutely ban AI and we don't want to see anything, we don't want to hear anything about it. But that's absolutely counterproductive because they are training the children that are going to the workforce at a time when AI is going to be absolutely mandatory. I've predicted 2 years ago that in 5 years, so now we have 3 years left, AI is going to be the new email. If you interview somebody today and that person tells you, no, I don't want to use email, I'm not sending email, I'm not replying to email, I don't think you're going to hire them. 3 years down the road, if somebody tells you, I don't want to use AI, I think it's not a good technology and it's bad for humanity, you're not going to hire that person no matter which department, no matter which company.
You made that prediction 2 years ago?
So 2 years ago, I said 5 years later.
Wow. And it's more knowledge and utilizing and leveraging it at the 5-year mark. You have to do that. Maybe productivity will be slower, I guess.
Yeah, and a lot of companies are investing now in their AI infrastructure. So the way they build their internet infrastructure, they build their email infrastructure, they build their knowledge management infrastructure, they use an AI infrastructure. And yes, the KPIs, the productivity are going to measure against that investment and they need the ROI. And the teams, even the slowest team, even the most conservative teams in the most conservative company, 3 years down the road, AI will be part of their toolbox and they won't talk about it anymore. Today, you still hear in companies like, why don't you use AI? One of your coworkers comes to you and say, I have to do this. It's really boring and I don't want, why don't you use AI? So it's still the suggestion. That's why the AI champions are going to be very important. So today, it's still happening in company. 3 years down the road will be, what do you mean you didn't use AI? Why did it take you so long to do that? It's going to be the other way around.
So I know you teach here in Hong Kong, but also in Shanghai. I mean, are the tool sets different or are they the same?
What we've established, both from a strategical point of view, so the 6 pillars of AI, and also the framework we teach for text generation and image generation, they turn out to be very stable. So we started with GPT 3.5 and everything we're teaching is still the same. So we say that you have to be able to jump and you need transferable knowledge to go from one AI to the next AI to the next AI. And in our teaching, we're really interested into what is transferable, what is constant throughout all the models. And people who used it against Gemini, against DeepSeek, against GPT, against all of them, they're constantly getting good results. And this is really what we're interested in. We don't want and we don't recommend company to be stuck to one of the models, to be stuck to one technology, because when they do that, the investments, they have to throw it away, waiting for the next technology to come. And you just need to wait a few weeks for a new model to come out. So it's extremely important to have this transferability of knowledge, transferability of most of the IT investment. This is actually our 6th pillar, which we call accelerate.
Perfect.
So the 6th pillar is AI models have to be like light bulbs. You have to be able to remove one and put another one.
Yeah, why don't we talk about the 6 pillars? Let's define them because, I was joking with you earlier. Of course, then I use the AI to find out, if it'll give me the 6 pillars. These are the ones defined by you. And what I like what you're saying is that you teach the approach and, the platforms are always changing. There's always going to be something better. But if you have the approach that's solid, then you can apply that to any of these platforms, which will change dramatically every few months, it seems like. So what are the 6 pillars?
So this was the 6th pillar. What we call it accelerates because the technology goes so fast, you need to make sure that you shield yourself. You have a level of decoupling from the model. So this is the sixth pillar. The first one is train. We're not talking about training the model. We're talking about training people. So this one, we say AIs learn our languages. So AI can speak English, Chinese, German, Dutch, Russian. We have to learn the language of AI. Because the AI speaks English, or at least types English, we have a feeling that, okay, we can have a normal discussion with AI, but this is not the most efficient way to do it. So the most efficient way is to give an order to the machine, and what is the proper way to give an order to the machine. So this is the topic of our 6-hour training plus specialization classes that we are adding on top of that. The second pillar is to augment. Augment means the AI has its own capacity. So any AI model that you put on the market have growing capacity, they can do more and more things, but they're really powerful when you combine them with your own knowledge. So this will be everything you've learned, everything you read, everything you wrote. And for a company, that's all the corporate internal knowledge, that's all the documentation inside the company. So that wealth of knowledge really becomes alive when you give it to an AI. And this is how we augment AI. The third pillar is control. So far, everything we've done, everything we've tried, all the company we work with, we strongly believe that you need a human at the start and a human at the finish. There are a lot of attempts to create those autonomous AI. They're very dangerous. They're dangerous for people who use them. They're dangerous for companies who implement them. We have quite a big list of companies who try to automate too quickly, too fast, without really understanding what they wanted to do. So this control is extremely important. And the fourth pillar is to secure. So if you give AI all your company most private information, most confidential information, you get the value. But if all this information gets out somewhere in a server, somewhere on the cloud that you don't control, you can be in trouble. And especially because all the AI companies are extremely hungry for data. Even if they tell you they don't use your data, I don't trust them. I don't trust them because there were information that were leaked left and right. All of them have stolen data left and right. So your own data that you give willingly, I don't trust them. There is a proper way to build the infrastructure so that the companies can leverage models. So basically they need to bring the model inside the company instead of using external SaaS solution that again cannot be trusted. And the fifth one is comply. There is AI regulation, and this AI regulation is different. So the regulation in China, the regulation in Europe, and I would say lack of regulation in the US so far, they are different. And companies that operate on different continents, they may get caught up into inconsistent need for regulation. They need to be aware and they need to keep updating themselves, and their legal department need to make sure what they're doing with AI is compliant with at least the country they operate in, but is it also compliant with the country that the company is registering? So this compliance is extremely important, and it's going to become more and more important in the future. Train, augment, control, secure, comply, and accelerate. These are the 6 pillars.
And accelerate. Tell me about the accelerate again.
So there are 2 parts to acceleration. The first part is if you start an AI project and you put it in production 6 months down the road, it's outdated. There are new models that are coming through there. And then to shield yourself from that, the critical part is to have that layer of abstractions so that everything you do will be transferable and that everything you build with the current technology will still be relevant 3 months later with the new model and 6 months later with the new model.
Great. So what's the usual starting point when you work with people? I think a lot of people are like, well, okay, I can search and I can do these things. I can ask a question, summarize things, but like maybe some people don't even get to that, don't even know where to go. What's the first thing that you teach them?
Step 1 is absolutely training. There's no shortcut. We meet companies come to us and they don't come for training. They're like, oh, I want to use AI to do that. And they have a use case in mind and they think they can do it. And usually these use cases, they fall in 3 categories. The first one is it's a great idea, but it doesn't require AI. We can do it with classical IT. It's just that you never really did the digitalization that you should have done in your company. And then there are projects that are just like science fiction. Don't even dream about it. Technology cannot do it today and probably will never. And then only a third of those use cases, they're like, yes, this is interesting. So people who don't go through training, their idea of AI and the type of use case that they want to apply it to are all over the place. And usually these people with the discussion doesn't go very far. And when we show them the technology cannot do it, they're disappointed. When they see the amount of preparation that needs to happen, they're usually disappointed. And I would say we have lost 100% of those close deals of people who didn't go through proper training. People who go through training and people who understand how to prompt and they can get good results, they can build up on that small nugget of efficiency, and then they can build up and then they can expand their knowledge and they can use from the first use case that they successfully completed in training, they go to a second one and a third one. So they go from, I would say, small early success to more and more and more success. And people who get that good start with AI and that good relationship with AI and that good collaboration with AI, they keep wanting more and more and more and more and more. Classical AI projects in the past with predictive analytics, for example, companies were coming out and they were saying, okay, Derek, you're 75% accurate at your job. Now, AI is 97% accurate at your job. So AI is better than you. So we're going to implement AI and you're going to listen to the AI. And that's the way the whole industry has been selling AI for, well, the last 10 years. And of course, those projects failed. They failed because of user adoption, because Derek will say, no, I don't like this AI that is going to replace me. So there was a lot of pushback against these AI that were sold as being more efficient than the human at that single task. We completely flipped the script on this one. We say, here is an AI. The AI is here to help you. The AI is going to do exactly what you want it to do. And because now we can operate them and anybody can operate them in natural language, then they're in charge. And the great thing also about natural language is that you don't need to talk to an IT person. You can control your computer directly. You can give an order in the language that you're most comfortable with, and then you get a good result. So that's why the training is important, to get a very good result early on and build on top of that small success to adoption so that all the users from all the departments in the company, they want more AI and they don't reject that AI that is supposedly going to replace them. They like the AI with their assistant and helping them.
Is there a certification that someone gets through your program, or does that matter? Do you think that should be on the resume?
We do have companies who want a piece of paper that says you had your butt in that seat for 3 hours. I mean, I think there's value and people want them and we give them. They will have real value if we could collaborate with a university or a real teaching institute. I think a logo will have more sense and will create more value. But we had discussion with universities, and the problem is the universities, they take 6 months to validate the curriculum. And we change our curriculum every month. Every month we update, we incorporate the new model, we incorporate the new prompting techniques. So we can't, it's very difficult to adjust and collaborate with universities because they want like confirmed knowledge, like firm knowledge, like the books behind you, like, okay, that book was written 2 years ago, so now we can start to trust it. And we're a completely different dynamic and agile environment. So we are super happy to deliver a certificate. For me, it's really what happens in the training that is more important, and for them to see the mindset starting to evolve, the fear, because there's a fear of AI also. One of the things we do probably implicitly in the training, we completely get rid of the fear of AI, because again, if you get good results and you see that the AI is very compliant, one of the funny things that happens quite often is like, are you happy with the results? Like, man, no. What did the AI do? They did this and they told me that. What did you ask? But that's exactly what you asked. So the AI is doing exactly what you're asking to do. So you have to change the way you ask, because it's just really straightforwardly did what you ask it to do. Very compliant. And now people saying like they're not afraid of AI. They're like, it's just doing what I ask it to do.
Yeah, I feel like you have to be very specific with your questions. That's something that I think in and of itself is a skill. AI is an edge, I think, for companies, for people. Do you find that there's a willingness to share, how it works among people? Like, are you training certain groups of people? Maybe it's like Bank A wants to know how to use AI, but hey, you can't, what's Bank B up to? Or what's Bank C? Or what corporation is doing what?
This is a question we get from time to time, like, what are other companies doing in our industry? Or like, what are the Chinese company doing for companies that are outside of China? We don't get it that much yet. I think this is something that is going to increase in time as success stories and case studies are coming out. But this is not the most common question we get. We get it occasionally. The real question that they are not willing to ask, but they are burning to ask, they're a bit ashamed to ask, is what is AI exactly? Because they don't really know. They don't really know that the first level of understanding is not there yet, especially executive. We do a lot of keynotes to promote our training and our services. And many people come at the end like, finally, I start to understand what's happening there. And some add, I've been to many conferences. I never really understood what they were talking about. And now, finally, I start to understand what you're talking about. And I see the application, because we try to make it alive and we try to really illustrate with simple things that everybody can understand in a corporate environment. And we we also usually add a little bit of fun. In every training and keynote, we get AI to write a little song, a little movie, a little something. I was giving a talk at the American Chamber of Commerce yesterday, and somebody came to me like, you really did the song with AI? It's really written by AI? I say, yes, yes, yes. It's the first time I hear in my life that AI can write a song. Like, what did you use? Which tool did you use? And I'm like, okay, here, this is the tool. Go play with it. Play with technology and really experience with it and see that you can do it. You really have that power today that you didn't have 2 years ago to write a script, a song, a small funny video, or generate an image. Everybody has this power, and all these tools, you can test them for free. I really want people to go around and play and again, lower down their fear and be as creative as they want. And many people are not there yet. So competition, it will come later. Probably in a couple of years, it will be the case. Right now, today, executives don't really get what it is. And our recommendation, when we say train people, our recommendation is train the executive first. And when we train the executive in a company, they expect us to give them the recipe for them to tell other people what to do. So you're going to teach us the strategy about AI and what we should do. I say, no. I'm going to teach you how you should use AI. Starting today for your own strategic task as an executive. So sometimes they look at us and at the end of the 2 hour training, because for executive, we make it 2 hours. At the end of the 2 hours, they're like, okay, now I understand what it is. Now I know what I can tell my people and what I can expect from them. But we don't teach them this way. We teach them how they can use it themselves for their own output.
It seems to me, in some of the meetings or talks that I've heard, that a lot of the CEOs, they're interested in solving like a problem, like automating something that they do, and it takes a lot of time. That's how they're thinking. But it seems to me that, what you're saying is that it's better to increase productivity overall of each individual, let's say even if it's 5 or 10%, like there's a lot of value there instead. Is that maybe the better focus currently?
It's definitely the starting point. Because of the third pillar, because of control, you don't want to automate too fast. It was published already. McDonald's tried to replace some of their drive-through with completely automated AI. And you can find some very, very funny video on TikTok of the AI going completely crazy, adding like 250 chicken nuggets boxes to the order. And every time the user wants to remove them, they add 20 more, something like that. Yeah. So removing humans, going from a completely human process to a completely AI automated process, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because the AIs, we estimate they're around 80% accurate. So you say 80, it's not bad. No, it's very bad. 1 out of 5 tasks is not executed properly. And when you ask the AI to correct it, or the user, in that case with the McDonald's example, 1 out of 5, they make it worse. So 1 of 25 times, it's just keep getting worse and worse and worse. And for customer-facing application, that's just terrible. So automation, you need to keep everybody in the loop. The people who know how to do the job, the experts, the head of the department or the people working in the department, they have to be there. They have to be there to control and to define what is a good output, what is a bad output, what is a good prompt, what is a bad prompt. This is also part of the revolution of generative AI. You can really involve the experts in the design process, and you don't give all the keys to the IT department. Traditional IT projects, you're an expert in your field, you tell an IT guy, he understands half of what you want, implements 25%, gives you a software with a lot of bugs that you need to test, and then you have those endless cycle. Now, the vision we have on the automation with AI, it's not that we have an AI that is going to replace everybody's job, is we have experts that are good at prompts, and they program the AI themselves. The IT department will define the infrastructure, will connect the dots, prepare the assistants, but then the sort of fine-tuning of this is a good prompt, or we can make it better, or we're not happy with the result, belongs to the people in the business. So we have completely shortened the loop between human and machine, between experts and the machine. This is how it can be really, really efficient. But for that, again, you have to start with training. They need to have good success, early success in the delivering part of their workflow, accelerating the middle part of every task. And then you can think about automation. But before you automate a process, it has to be an AI-human collaboration for maybe 6 months or 1 year, run the process really, really smoothly. Now we can start to think about automation. But automating too quickly, too fast, that's going to be a disaster. And it has been a disaster for McDonald's, but I have a long list of those failure stories.
Yeah, I guess it sounds like hitting that critical mass, maybe even in a company of like 25% of the workforce.
It depends on the company, but I guess, our point of view is every knowledge worker in the company can benefit from AI, all of them. Anybody who works with their brains, anybody who works with information, data, knowledge, they will benefit. Some of them will not benefit tremendously. Maybe they get 1 or 2% performance improvement, which is invisible in the P&L because they're there anyway. Some maybe get 10 or 20 or something higher. Some may get 90%, but just on one task, but everybody can benefit. Now, at the company level, it's a matter of return on investment. So you invest in the platform, you invest in the technology, you invest in training. What's left at the end? Do you reduce the workforce? Do you keep the workforce? Do you increase the workforce? That really depends how you want to leverage AI. My personal opinion, but we haven't seen a lot of company go in that direction, is that reducing the workforce is not the best strategy. Definitely not the best strategy. A better strategy, we think, is to innovate and create new business models. So now that you have AI, let's say you're the first company in your field to really embrace AI. You train your people, you invest in the technology, you have the infrastructure. Now you may be in a position to offer a service or a product to your customer that was impossible 2 years ago. And now you're getting market share and visibility and marketing. And now your investment can really, really pay off. So you didn't lose the talents, you didn't lose the knowledge, you didn't lose the entrepreneurial spirit or innovation spirit from the company. And now you can get market share on a new market that didn't exist because you can do something your competitors cannot do. I always advise executives to think this way. And that's why in the executive training, the last part of the training is a 20-minute business model challenge. We help them to create a completely new business model, AI powered for their company, and we give them 20 minutes to fill in the business canvas. Of course, they use AI. We give them the prompts, but they make the critical decision throughout those 20 minutes. That's usually very high energy, very competitive because inside an executive committee, they all compete for the best idea. Like, no, my business model is better than yours. No, look, oh, I told you last week we should do a subscription model. Oh, no, but Lee, look what AI told me. Oh, that's exactly what I was discussing with my team a month ago. This is really, really the one. So they don't necessarily implement them right away, but at least we plant that seed that AI is not here to replace people. AI is here for people to be able to do more and different things more efficiently. And your competitive advantage will be to be the first company in your industry to move into AI and really understand and embrace it.
Well, I love those. Those are always fun. You find out who the leaders are and you identify them too. So it's also
Yeah,
another benefit other than just learning AI.
absolutely.
Yeah, okay, so I get it. So the six pillars, train is the first pillar that you start with. And
Yeah.
ultimately, the control, it sounds like, keeping the human element there involved is highly critical. I have a question. Let's shift gears a little bit. How did you decide to major in AI in 1993? Did you watch like The Terminator or something? I think that came out before 90. Like, what was the inspiration behind that?
It was interesting for two reasons. One, it was like rare, it was odd. Most of the people in my cohort, they didn't really look at AI. They just wanted to play with computers, but AI for them didn't really resonate. So there were not too many people that choose that major. So that was interesting for the oddity. And then there was I would say, pure kind of game or puzzle challenge. At that time, I was already playing computer games and role-playing games as a teenager. And there was that thing like, it sounds complicated. It sounds like a big complex puzzle, the human brain and intelligence and figuring out and natural language processing was already a topic at that stage. It was a mix of oddity, rarity, with the cognitive intellectual challenge that it presented.
I feel like AI always had, especially at that time, the connotation, the feeling was always a negative thing, like HAL, or any of these are eventually going to tear the world apart.
I think 93 was one of the AI winters, In the AI history, there were like peaks of interest, and 93 was definitely not one of them because there was Deep Blue, because I think Deep Blue came after, and then AlphaGo came after. We were kind of at the time where it was really not popular. So the unpopularity of AI, it's kind of attracted me there. But it was a good bet. I think I was a smart bet 30 years ago.
Oh yeah, and here we are. Well, this is like 30 years later. Well, this was in France. Where was your university again?
My university is called Centrale Supélec. That is still to this day the best IT university in France. And they teach from everything from electronics all the way to computer science and AI, and that AI specialization and networking, everything related with electricity, basically, from small to big.
What brought you out here to Asia?
First, I worked for French banks, always in the IT department. And again, one day, wanted to change job. I end up in a nice bank in Paris, very, very old building. And one guy asked me, like, would you like to go to Hong Kong? Like, yes. I didn't think about it and say, yes. To do what? So that bank, they needed young, smart people to go on a midterm project. At that time, you were either a local or an expat for on a 3-year contract, but they needed people to come to Hong Kong, Singapore, and Asia to deploy new softwares. And I said, yes, let's have a look at it. And then I came here to Hong Kong. So that was 1998 on that project for a trade finance project, when it was really the peak of the international commerce here in Hong Kong. I really loved the area. I really love Asia. I really love Hong Kong. I love the food. I love the people. I love the spirit of fun and hardworking at the same time. And I decided to, that was really a place I wanted to be. So I had to go back to Europe, come back. And finally, 2003, I decided to move here permanently, I would say. And I landed in Shanghai. And why Shanghai? Because that's going to be your next question. When I was in Hong Kong in 1998, I went and spent out a Christmas vacation in Shanghai with a young lady that became my wife after. And then between 1998 and 2003, every 6 months, I would visit Shanghai and I would see a different city every 6 months. I would see the city physically change and grow. And I told myself, like, something is going to happen in Shanghai. I actually was completely underestimated what happened in 20 years that followed. But Shanghai really struck me as a place that was transforming at a speed that I've never seen. And I still, to this day, nobody has seen a urban transformation that was that huge between, I would say, 1995 and 2010 in Shanghai. That was huge. So I told myself there would be interesting things happening in Shanghai. Again, good bet.
Well, yeah, I mean, you definitely could see it. I mean, I visited several times, and every time I'm like, whoa, this is a different city again, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And it always positive, always in a great way as well. I remember one of my friends even saying, like, talking to the students and the people there, now there's native English speakers that were born in Shanghai that have no accent, which I think is more common. It's very common.
I think my son is one of them. His accent is way better than mine in English, and his Chinese is just native. So he turns around and he's considered a native Chinese, and then he turns around, he's considered a native English speaker because he went through English education. And yes, you see them everywhere now in Shanghai.
Will he search in Mandarin or English? Or, I mean, will he use AI in either?
But his education is in English, so anything that is education related is using English. You should use the language that you want in the output. But in daily life, even most of his friends also speak Mandarin, and actually they communicate in half actually. They switch language. They're all this dual linguistic. I hear when he's speaking to his friends, they switch quite often. Sometimes there's an idea, there's a concept that doesn't exist in English but exists in Chinese. Sometimes there's a word that has like a meaning that absolutely doesn't exist, so then it will come out automatically as this one because it's more accurate. Language and culture are really interesting. Yeah. That's one of the things we play around also from time to time. So whenever you speak in a language with an AI, it's not only bringing the language, it's bringing the language and the culture all together. We have these debates and this discussion. The translation of the output is not the same thing as the outputs in another language. So if you have the same prompt in two different languages, the output can be completely different, even though the prompt is just a translation. So when we do that, and especially in training, when we do training in Mandarin, we have to scan again and completely, not to redesign because the principles are the same, but we have to scan the whole training because it will resonate differently in Chinese. And sometimes we need to change it. Sometimes it's not just a pure translation. So that idea of language culture is extremely interesting. And all these kids growing up in Shanghai, because there are quite many that have those two cultures and these two languages. They're very interesting people.
Yeah, and a lot of them. Yeah, I remember you mentioning though about translation, and was one of your specialties as well. That's really more your focus, not just AI, but you have those sort of specialties.
When I mention translation, it's translation between technology and business, because that's what we're doing. We're teaching humans how to talk to machines. So these new AI, we can consider them as new entities. How do you communicate with an AI? That's why we use the word translation, or you can say that a prompt course is kind of a language course. You're learning a new language, a new way to structure your thought and your command. That's why we use the word translation. It's not moving from a human language to another language. It's moving from regular English to English for AI, English speaking to AI. And one of the critical parts is that because it's English, because it's so good at English, because the English that comes out is perfect, there's a tendency to anthropomorphize the AI. And there's a tendency to consider that AI as a colleague. But the problem is your colleague, when you work in a company, your colleague has a lot of implicit knowledge. You know them, you know who they are, they know who you are, they know where you work, they know the company, they know we're in Hong Kong today. There are a lot of implicit knowledge that doesn't exist when you communicate with an AI. Even an AI that you feed with all the corporate data, there's more context that is out there, but there's still a need to specify a lot more and to be a lot more precise about the context of your task and what you're asking. So that's why you don't talk to an AI the way you talk to your colleague, even if you use English to interact. It's an illusion. It's an anthropomorphic illusion that the AI is like a new colleague. And there's a lot of marketing in that direction. I saw an article this morning, like the IT department becomes the HR department. They were hiring assistants for everybody. I mean, agents, actually, no, they use the word agents, which I don't like because it gives that wrong impression. And this cognitive mistake, I think, is very, very dangerous. We have to make sure we talk to an AI. So whenever you put an AI in front of a customer, you have to be transparent 100%. This is an AI, or you'll be in trouble. When you use an AI, you have to be cautious of the fact that you're interacting with a piece of software, you're interacting with an AI. Your behavior and your communication must be different.
Yeah, we were talking about certification is almost like there's a fluency instead, maybe.
Yeah.
What would define that?
TOEFL for AI, yeah. We could make it this way. Yeah. How good are you at communicating with machines? When you see frustration from like older citizens on application on phones or on desktop, you see that fluency. Sometimes it's really bad UX. And that's the problem, that when I try to help my 93-year-old father to interact with some website, sometimes it's frustrating. He's like, oh, I'm really old. I say, no, Dad, you're not old. This is terrible UX. It's not your fault. It's their fault. It's a government website designed by I don't know who, but so it's the same way, like this human machine interaction. One thing we cannot take away, the text models, the AIs, they have the best UX in the world. You cannot make it easier. You cannot make it simpler. So now it's all about the user, finally. Yeah. And this is another prediction. So I didn't put a date on this one because I don't like making prediction on the future, but this one I really cannot put a pin in the future. It's what I call the disappearance of UI. I think chatbot will be the best UI in the world. So anybody working in corporates, they all hate their CRM. They all hate their ERP. They don't like going into their financial software, whatever, because the UI is not made for humans. Why? Because humans, we like stories. We've been telling each other stories for almost an hour, right? So this is the way we communicate. This is the way we understand from very young, and also apparently from very early on in human society. It's all about story, and it's all about storytelling. And even very technical documentation, even a standard operating manual, it's still a story. There is a beginning, a middle, and an end. And this is how we process information. But traditional IT software, it's not like this. Traditional IT software, it must be in a database. So you have to separate the information by chunk of information that you put in the right place. And if it's not formatted properly, you're being shouted at. So there is this inherent conflict between the way machine process information and the way humans process knowledge. Now, with generative AI, we can finally reconcile. We can tell humans, you do your thing, you tell your story, ask me question, I will tell you a story. And then on the other side, the AI will be available to discuss and have a dialogue with the old style application, find the information in the database or feed the information in the database. So again, this AI model, I see them as like the translator between humans who process information as stories and computers who process information inside a database. More than predicting, I'm actually hoping for the disappearance of UI, replacing them with a really well-trained and well-managed and well-controlled AI.
Interesting. It sparked thoughts of, well, one is essentially reducing friction for data capture, and it might be in the form of a camera and sound, and really, you give it as much as you want to give it. Telling a story, seeing how you behave, it could capture all that information if you really wanted it to. And then what interacting would be sort of like what we're doing with beeps and boops. Beep, boop. No. I just saw this clip on Instagram where two computers were talking to each other. Two AIs were talking to each other. And it was beep, beep, beep. And they have, their own little language. And of course, I'm on the train, and it was really loud. So there was a lady, she's like, can you please shut that off? But we're headed in that direction, is what you're saying, where the UIs will be replaced, or at least it'll evolve.
Technology must make our lives easier. When we invented the fire, when we invented the shovel, when we invented the hammer, when we invented the bicycle, it was to make our life easier, right? We have to have a better life and an easier life. So technology must be there to make our life easier. That has been always the goal. So this one should not be an exception. It should make our life easier. When I see some website, I don't think people are trying to make my life easier sometimes.
Tell me a little bit more about your 93-year-old dad. Did he encourage you? Was he like, yeah, you should do AI and, like, I'm going to pay for your education or do that? Or like, what was he like at that time? If
So,
you don't mind me
so
asking.
he bought me my first computer when I was 10. He was the one to tell me there is this thing, it's called a computer. He saw computer coming into the company where he was working, was a very traditional industrial company in France. And he saw computers and he's like, this is something interesting. At that time, I was probably playing with my Rubik's Cube and he said, that's something important, you should look into it. Then he bought me that first computer. He didn't look at it for himself. He didn't really look at what it was. He had no curiosity for himself. I think he thought like his career was set, but he thought it was interesting for me. And he had that two ideas of like, it's a toy and maybe it could be useful. It's like, what are we going to get you for Christmas? Okay, computer, done. So he gave it to me, but somehow I didn't have such high hopes. So after I got the computer, I'm like, okay, what do I do with it? And I'm like, okay, it's got that thing that is called BASIC. All right. So I need to learn BASIC. Otherwise, because they were also games, but it's like, I can do more than just play games with that. And that kind of sparked there. So I went back to him. It's like, Dad, I need a book to learn BASIC. We go there, bookstore, we buy the book. I come back. And 2 weeks later, I'm like, Dad, I need the volume two. He's like, why do you need volume two? Like, but I finished volume one. Like, what do you mean you finished volume one? Like, yeah, I read the book, I did the exercise, and I know how to do it. He didn't believe me. He took the book, like, can you do that? He gave me like the exercise. I said, yeah, sure. I typed it, got the results, and like, okay, but I'm gonna buy you volume two. So that's the story that I remember very vividly. So he really set me off to that path. Actually, when I said I'm really interested in computer, he showed me because on the way to a ski vacation every year, we would pass that university. We could see it from the highway, and he's like, you have to go there. This is the best school in France. I'm like, okay, sure, I'll go there. So I worked to go there and I got there where he wanted me to be and I wanted to be. Yeah. So really supported me, yeah. Supported me from my whole career. But he didn't have a computer. And then we get our son. And they're like, oh, we're not going to see our grandson that often. I said, no, maybe you should get a computer. I said, yes, if you get a computer, we can call you with Skype. At that time, it was Skype. And suddenly they are super interested into computers. And then they realized how to use computers. So he was 79 at that time and he got it. There was a strong motivation to technology. So he got his first computer to be able to see his grandson at least once per week on a Skype call. So that gave me also a lot of thinking and reasoning about why do we need technology, We need technology when we need it. When we don't, just technology for the sake of technology is really a waste of venture capital money and time and energy and electricity and everything. There needs to be a purpose.
Sounds like you had a good relationship. Well, you have a good relationship, and
Yeah,
he listens to you and adapts very quickly. Was it an Apple II
It
or?
was a Texas Instrument 994A,
Oh
TI
my goodness.
994A.
Wow. I guess you've really seen technology evolve so fast. You're on the extremely super adopter, super early adopter.
Yeah, they were the first home computer. They didn't exist before. And that movie, what was the movie called? War Game. That was really
Shall we
interesting.
play a game?
Exactly. So again, AI, teenager, computer, that was the best movie ever for me at that time. That really resonated with me. And he
Oh
had a
yeah.
modem, he had a cradle where you could put the landline, and we didn't have that in France. Like there was no way to get it. There were no ISP at the time. The internet didn't really exist. We didn't have like point-to-point dial-up. So that part of the movie got me really excited.
Are you a gamer?
Yeah.
What games were you playing?
I usually play very story-driven game, single player. I don't touch multiplayer games. That's a drug that I don't want to get into. But single player and very story-driven. So the Witchers, Assassin's Creed, these type of games. Yeah.
That's great. What was your favorite childhood game?
Childhood. If I go back to childhood, they don't really resonate because number one, they don't look good, but they're super hard. They were like really, really difficult. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Whenever I go back to an older game, they're like really, really, really hard to get through. There was a very nice game called Karateka. It was a kind of a
Yeah,
2D scroller game. I think that one was really nice. Yeah, I
I played
remember.
that. I
I
played
remember that one.
Karateka.
Oh, and then there was another one that they kind of repackaged. XCOM was a very good one.
XCOM UFO Defense.
Exactly.
Oh
Yes.
wow. Okay. Oh man. There's many people. I was in college when that came out, and there were some friends of mine that failed classes because of that game.
Yes. Okay. I
Um,
can believe that. So yeah, XCOM was really a very good one.
well, let's bring it back. Tell me the next level. Maybe it's the next level in training. I know you've already made one prediction. What's the next level in training then? at least. So someone has taken this kind of immersion and course. Where do you think it's going? What do you think the next step will be?
There are still millions of people to be trained, so I don't think we're going to get to all of them next week. So there's still a lot of training happening in the company. The next wave will be when training is not needed so much, when we only need to train the new people. So there's going to be, I think, a big wave, and then it will kind of shrink. For me, the trigger is going to be the realization that everybody has a tremendous level of control on computers. So when people really get to that realization that they really have that power in their hands, it's already the case with entrepreneurs. I'm connected to different organizations where I meet a lot of entrepreneurs, and a lot of entrepreneurs have embraced AI in a way that people don't really realize. They're really eager to do a lot of things, but a lot of them, they just go to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. There are a lot about tools, about like, this is great. Oh, I'm moving all my agent to this platform. So these people, they don't really capitalize on what they are doing and what they are building. So for me, it's that mixed that is very difficult to find, about being curious enough to really explore and really find power into, it's like growing another pair of arms and another pair of eyes, and like really getting it. But at the same time, making it sustainable and capitalize on these investments, not go jump from tool to tool to tool to tool to tool. So this is that middle ground that we're trying to find. And then the next wave that is coming is agentic application. We see them all the way. So there was a news this week about a Chinese agent called Manus that has got everybody very excited. We don't have access yet because there's a long waiting list apparently. Looking at the video, it's both exciting and dangerous. The key question is going to be, where do we stop? How much autonomy we give to an AI, and how much we retain as human. The critical decision must be made by human. So there's a point, and finding that cursor is going to be extremely important, where there's a point where the AI needs to come back to you and ask you a question, or they have like, oh, I found two options and you choose. So this is the part that is extremely important in a corporate environment. We usually say if you send an email and your boss is unhappy, he's not going to fire the AI because the AI wrote the email, right? Because we need that accountability. And we have that question on autonomous car, right? If the car kills somebody, who's responsible? Is it the car manufacturer? Is it the owner? Is it the insurance company? So same thing with AI. We cannot, in a corporate environment, and even in our life, we cannot take away our responsibility. There are a lot of AIs for dating. At the end, it's not the AI sitting in a restaurant. It's not the AI who's going to live with that person for the rest of their life. So how much we delegate, how much we keep, this is going to be critical. And in the whole AI movement, the companies, because they're going to compete one against the other one, like my agent is better, my agent is more autonomous. So they're going to put the cursor too far at one point. And I don't know where it is and when it is, but already with operators from OpenAI, and maybe they're already too far on the scale. Maybe there's too much autonomy that are going to be to the agent. So we'll have to dial it back down. So this will be the next one. And this is why I don't want to use agent. So again, one more time, and kind of swimming against the current. And this is why I'm very stubborn into calling them assistant. They're not here to replace you. They're here to assist you. And I want to call them assistant so that we want to stress that they're to assist you to do what you want to do under your own responsibility, under your own accountability, with your own purpose in life or in your career. So that whole agent assistant, for me, the words are very close, but for me, it's extremely important to make that difference. So the next big fight for me, or risk or frontier, is on this one. How much autonomy we give to them, not because of Terminator and like they're going to take over the world. No, just because it's not going to work. And again, 80% accuracy. So you give too much autonomy, half an hour later, 1 out of 5 times, you have to do it again because it's wrong, because the AI went in the wrong direction. When it's a 20-second result, it's okay. You can pay the price of fixing your prompt. If you give a very big task that takes like 1 hour and a lot of processing resources, you don't want them to go in the wrong direction. So that's it. AI, assistant, agent, and autonomy. This is the big problem solution in front of us.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Stephane Monsallier, for joining me. It sounds like that you are not only creating awareness, but you are providing strategy as well on how to address the issues that are just going to hit us in the face in a couple of years, or already has. So thank you. And
Thank you.
sounds
Thank you,
like we're going
Derek.
to talk again.
Thank you, Derek. That was really fun.